It's time now for business, and we begin as ever with a look at the markets. Firstly, how things closed up in the US on Wednesday night. Losses across the board. The Dow Jones are down almost 0.8 of a percentage point. The S&P 500 are down a little lower than 0.5%. The Nasdaq, meanwhile, down 0.25% at the close of play. Well, as for Asia today, something of a mixed bag, as you can see there. The Shanghai Composite trading in positive territory, up almost 0.2%. The Hong Kong Hang Seng up almost 0.3%. The Kospi in Seoul, meanwhile, down 0.5 percentage point. The Nikkei in Tokyo trading down a little lower than 1%. French President Emmanuel Macron has said the possibility of breaking up dominant digital giants is a legitimate question. The tech industry could be facing more pressure around the world. This week, Joe Biden named a vocal Silicon Valley critic, Lina Khan, to head the Federal Trade Commission, America's top regulator. Macron was speaking at the annual Viva Tech conference here in Paris, which showcases startups and tech giants alike. Marius Sophos has been taking a look at the event.
It was a return to the fold for the tech world in Paris on Wednesday as the annual Viva Technology show got underway after being cancelled last year due to COVID-19. Apple CEO Tim Cook appeared via video link affirming the tech giant's commitment to privacy.
You can think of a world where privacy is not important and the surveillance economy takes over, and it becomes a world where everyone's worried that somebody else is watching them. And so they begin to do less, they begin to think less. And nobody wants to live in a world where that freedom of expression narrows.
Also in the blockbuster lineup of speakers, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg and Microsoft's Brad Smith. This year's four-day event is taking place both in person and online. Masks are compulsory indoors, the capacity is 5,000 a day, and visitors have to present a negative COVID-19 test or proof of full vaccination. Though the physical event is scaled back this year, the fair is still presenting more than 500 technological innovations, addressing a broad range of issues, including the economy and the environment. Robots are proving to be very popular, such as Buddy the emotional support robot, or Spot the robot dog, which can be used to reach hard-to-access spaces, for example, in nuclear power plants. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke virtually at the fair, calling on the world to invest in Indian technology, while French President Emmanuel Macron attended the event in person, pushing for the EU's tech sector to rival Silicon Valley.
Has approved Spain and Portugal's COVID recovery plans, clearing the way for them to receive emergency aid from the bloc's €750 billion recovery fund. Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen is expected to give the green lights to Greece and Denmark when she travels there on Thursday. But how exactly is the financing going to work? Marius Sophos has been taking a look at the Next Generation EU fund.
The beginning of a landmark borrowing spree that's set to transform the EU into a huge cash machine for member states hit hard by COVID-19. Brussels seeks to raise a monumental €800 billion in just 5 years, with €750 billion earmarked for the European Recovery Fund. The fund will be financed by a common EU debt, unlike before the pandemic when countries managed borrowing and debt on their own terms. The sums dished out by the EU will vary from country to country, depending on how heavily COVID-19 impacted on them. Italy will receive the highest amount at €192 billion. €40 billion will go to France, €69.5 billion to Spain, and €23 billion to Germany.
It's going to take into account the impact of the crisis in relation to national wealth and population, and that's why big countries that were seriously affected, like Italy and Spain, and to some extent France, will receive more than countries that are smaller or that were less affected by the pandemic.
Half of the recovery fund will be handed out in the form of loans, with each country individually paying back what it receives. The other half of the fund, though, some €360 billion, will be distributed as grants. Questions still linger about how the common debt financing the fund will be paid off.
One path involves each country repaying according to the size of its economy, and there are other possible routes by which the money will be repaid in the form of a Europe-wide tax. For example, a tax on the profits of companies that produce in the European Union, or a tax on importing goods that contain CO2.
The funding should help EU member states build back their economies, with the bloc on track to grow by 4.2% this year.